Yeah, it defies physics. All right, here we are into the draft for game number 1. The DN Supers taking on T1. Let's see exactly how this one is going to go. The draft going to be a very interesting one, as well as we've seen a few adaptations throughout this week since the patch. We are, of course, on 26.7. There have been a few things that have changed around, but things are largely staying the same. I think the Pantheon priority is the biggest one that teams have figured out this week. That champion is Busto.
We have certainly figured out that the Pantheon Rise win rate was not because of the Rise.
No. It was certainly not. However, it's still getting banned, yeah.
Yeah, Faker's very good at this pick. Very iconic champion for him. As are pretty much every mid-champion that's played across the years. Any champion that has a high presence, basically no matter what year it is, Faker's iconic on it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
That's kind of how it goes.
Let's see, I guess Yunara, is going to be available if they ban the Seraphine here. We'll see what T1 want to first pick. The Rumble's gone. The Rise is gone.
Karma is up and available. That's a LeBlanc. So
looking like
T1,
an Azir angle.
Yeah, that's what it's sort of feeling like for now. Although Orianna is available as well, so it could just be that trade of the two champions. There is a Nocturne up and available as well.
When DNS played against Nongshim and Clozer got that huge lead on LeBlanc, they couldn't figure out how to close out the game, but he was able to completely destroy Scout in lane on the Azir. So I think this is a good read and good job by the coaching staff to figure out that this guy is really good at this matchup into Azir, and we just don't want to give him the opportunity. And so I think Faker will get his free Azir first pick. Any other team, and you consider a few options here, but it's T1, it's Faker, it's going to be an Azir. It's got to be.
Orianna as well. I mean, both of them are very strong at the moment. I think Faker has been leaning towards the Orianna a little bit more.
The problem with the Azir is you give Orianna Nocturne.
Yeah, that's an issue.
That's a bit of an issue, and I'll take a few steps back with that in mind, and we'll feel much better about this Orianna pick you mentioned. Bard!
Oh, God. Okay.
It wasn't banned, so you better grab it.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that we weren't talking about this the entire time, because Keria's Bard is a huge deal. We saw DuDu do this in the Gen.G T1 matchup, picking it away from Keria to make sure they couldn't get that one. The priority on the Orianna is now, I know I predicted it, but I feel like I'm a bit dumb for doing so. I think the Bard could have been a first pick option for T1 just because of how incredible Keria is on the pick. Still, not going to happen. They're going to deny the Ezreal Bard as Peyz is looking to pick that one up.
What support does Keria want to play with this? Okay, the Neeko.
All right.
Should have been kind of a given as the Azir will come through here. I have not really personally been a huge fan of Azir, nor have I really enjoyed Azir Nocturne as a combo here in the LCK so far. The Tempered Fate can help set up the Azir, but it's so situational and so difficult to pull off that I'm really liking what T1 has put together here, because there's a lot of comfort and there's a lot of safety in these first three champions.
Yeah, I also like the amount of engage that they have, and the bottom lane feels pretty strong. Neeko in lane is pretty good. Ezreal can always hold his own. The Jarvan going to be taken away from Oner, as we don't have a jungle pick yet for T1, so it does make sense to focus on that lane.
Maybe you just ban Sivir here now, because Sivir is a lot more powerful. Yep, they do that with the Jarvan gone, because Sivir also works really well with Bard and is great wave clear and great scaling in this draft here for the Supers.
I was about to say, let's just write down the Zins out.
The thing is, when you ban these champs against Oner, he probably just laughs and he might play Lee Sin.
Kha'Zix.
He might play. He could just play Graves and laugh as well.
Every time it's been Kha'Zix into Nocturne. Every single time. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes for it this time around.
Nocturne just cannot challenge, as it's going to be a Caitlyn Bard lane here for the Supers. So DNS hoping they can go toe-to-toe in this 2v2 matchup. Going to be about the support play, I think, more than anything else. As Sion, bit of an interesting choice here.
Sion Kha'Zix. I'd be kind of into it. Because the Kha'Zix Orianna is something that's also being played almost every single time as well.
It's a great ball carrier with the leap.
Yeah. Well, let's see whether Oner does pull the trigger.
He can still play Lee Sin if he really just feels like it. But with Oner, sometimes when his main picks are gone, I find it difficult to predict. And I guess I did anyways. I don't know.
I mean, Lee Sin does basically the same thing when it comes to synergy with Orianna, as that's a Gwen for
That's our
DuDu.
first of the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Keen played it yet.
We did see her banned, but we haven't actually seen her picked, if memory serves. So that's an interesting one. DuDu has been pretty good at running with scissors so far. throughout his career.
It's also a great counterpick to Sion, and Doran's individual performances have left us a little bit disappointed. I think is maybe the safest way to say it so far this season.
With a composition like this that doesn't really have that much of a front line, what they could have done is go for the tank handshake to give them that front to back. But instead, what they've given themselves is a big 4-1 opportunity.
Sure, the side lane power is incredible because you have honestly even like 1-3-1 power here in this one, because you have an Azir that's great at side laning, but it can just leave a Sun Disc up and then go join the 4.
Game exactly that
when they get rooted, it says, "Oh!"
We actually need to get her to like go backstage and do some voice recording, so that we have all of the new voice lines for that particular ultimate Zyra skin. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen, getting ready to jump onto the rift for game number 1, the DN SOOPers versus T1. Well, turns out T1 fans are certainly plentiful here at Chichik Law Park today, but the DN SOOPers not without their volume as well. And let's see how it's going to go as we get into this laning phase. Faker throwing orbs around, and Clozer throwing soldiers around. We're not throwing them, but just spawning them.
Yeah, spawning them.
I guess Conquering Sands kind of is like he's throwing them around.
I guess he kind of like throws or waves his spear around. You could consider it throwing it around to get them to be summoned.
Yeah. Well, Faker is getting a little bit aggressive.
He will take a lot of damage, but he gets this wave in, so it works out pretty well for him. And this is an issue here for T1 if the bottom lane goes poorly, because the top lane is pretty winning, pretty smashing for DuDu. So Keria and Peyz need to be very careful with how this bottom lane goes. Peyz went barrier, which makes a ton of sense into this draft, and so he can combat the Caitlyn directly if Keria hits a few pokes and is able to get the right binding at the right time. So this is not an unplayable lane. A lot of the time when you lane into Caitlyn, you're like, well, that's just a wash. But with this Neeko, actually do have a fighting chance, as Oner's going to look for an early gank to shut this Gwen down early. And Doran already has a pretty nice HP set up here.
Yeah, and does have his cooldowns back as well, getting some grass procs, things like that, as DuDu dashes away. Really nicely done, utilizing that ward in the pixel brush, but had his eye glued to the minimap. If that was me, would have died. Doesn't matter about the ward. I'm just not looking. Not DuDu. Gonna spot it out and get himself out of there. Pyosik will be taking the Bramble back here, as Doran is still trading very well. And we were talking about the Gwen as being a great matchup into the Sion. Not yet, right? Yeah. The first few levels, Sion is just pretty ridiculous as a champion. And so Doran should be just fine, at least until, you know, level 6, things like that. A couple of item buys come through for the Gwen.
Not great if you keep getting hit by fully stacked Qs, but still trade back. He's a little bit low on mana.
Yeah, the blue stuff is problematic. Does have that snip stacked up as well, does DuDu. And we'll be able to find it there. Dashes out of the way, but everyone looking a little worse for wear towards that top side of the map.
Faker playing like a man possessed in this lane so far, really putting the pressure on to Clozer here early.
Yeah.
One of the players who obviously understands both sides of this matchup more than literally anyone who exists. True. So,
I mean, he's been playing Azir into Orianna for what, 7 years? When was the most recent? So it was Azir that was released most recently. Is that like? It's over 10 years now.
It has been over 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, definitely over. Probably even longer than that. It's probably 13 years or something like that. But that's been how long he's been playing this matchup. Yeah. As Oner comes on over and looks to steal away his Raptor camp, as Pyosik was trying to get rid of that. That's going to even out the camps as well between the two junglers.
TP's already expended here on the top side. So now that some items are coming through here for DuDu, he starts to get these levels in, and his level 6 is closer. Doran is not going to be able to just trade the way he has been, but he's keeping this wave near his turret. He's just being Sion. And the observers are watching this because we have seen already Doran's defensive tank lanes, the Cassante in particular, get solo killed.
Yeah.
So we always got to keep our eye in to see if DuDu is going to find an angle here or if Doran makes a mistake. Once again, Oner is on the top side of the map, but I don't think we'll be going for a gank this time around.
Doesn't have a whole lot of camps right now, so it might have a little bit of time to find some sort of angle, but instead going to be heading southward. even though that lane is well and truly shoved forward. Clozer is somewhat pushed up as well into Faker, as we can see, as Peter magically journeying over, finds the flash cosmic binding onto Peyz, but the follow-up not quite there, as the flash was utilized immediately from this Ezreal, not messing around as Peter goes for the play.
That could be something that's really huge when Pyosik hits level 6 later on, so doesn't necessarily mean much now, but that's what flash cooldowns often eventuate into, is because they're so long, a play later on that is actually more lethal. So really good gank here from Peter. Like a wraparound more than a gank.
Speaking of which, Oner moving down as well. Seeing whether he can head through this tribe rush. There is a control ward as needlework comes out from DuDu. Doran taking a lot of damage, but does find that stacked up Q.
DuDu really respecting that fact that Doran was like a minion away from level 6, so he did not want to try to flash or do anything crazy there, just was happy with the trade he got, little tempo ult.
Yep, the turret certainly a little bit of a problem if he does get crashed into by a train. And so, as it all stands, only about a 200 gold difference between the two squads, nothing really to be concerned about on either side. Berserker Greaves picked up for deokdam. Just trying to go towards some attack speed early on. But you can see, hasn't really been the Caitlyn lane domination that we often expect from this champion. The Neeko, like you were talking about, certainly doing her job in that lane, making sure that Keria and Peyz are just fine.
Peter is trying to be Mr. Worldwide right now, everywhere at once, but isn't going to find anything here in the mid lane. Faker is very prepared for this possibility. Pyosik gets level 6 before Oner, as you can see the XP bar highlighting right now on the left side of your screen, but doesn't have a great gank target. Even with the prio in mid trying to push onto Oner, not realistic. And even though Peyz is flashless, he's very far away from that lane right now, so I think it won't really matter all too much, but Nocturne's to get out of control, get ahead early, and get that ultimate hunter online early.
Yeah, there's also the fact that, you know, Peyz, he doesn't have flash, but he does have arcane shift most of the time. And so they do need to be still a little bit cognizant of that. He is still very, very safe. As DuDu and Doran, here up towards his top side, some mist being played around by this Gwen, but otherwise nothing too much to report. So a pretty slow start to this game. And I have to say, probably does bode pretty well for the DN Supers. Probably wanting to get items number 1 or 2 on the majority of their carries. deokdam wanting even more than that to really find relevance in this game. I think Clozer and DuDu really, alongside Pyosik, going to be a large proponent of what gets them into that late game to allow deokdam to then carry. Mid game certainly going to be controlled by them. So eyes going to be glued to where DuDu's going after that first item does come on in, and whether or not Clozer can find any headway, because right now he is behind about a wave as this wave is crashing in mid. Faker certainly doing a great job keeping up with the farm.
Any dragon you can get, especially with a late game comp like this, that is going to get, like when it's Infernal as a single Drake, even if you get that just that one Drake, you lose the next 2, that's going to be relevant stats for the whole game. For your scaling composition, buys you time to avoid dragon fights later, so they can use this mid prio here to somehow wrestle this dragon away. It would be huge for them, but they don't have enough control. They have a lot of vision control, but not enough control to actually start this one up at the moment. So it's like it's going to be a bit of a later first dragon here in our first game of this series. A very quiet and slow early game, which has not really been all too much the style here of Pyosik and DNS, but they just have not found any ins just yet.
Yeah, and also it's not really the style of the LCK after what we had yesterday, which was just pure chaos from the beginning to the end of the day.
Dumb fun.
Yeah, certainly was that. Just a ridiculous experience, as Doran not quite finding the roar of the Slayer there towards DuDu, and will need to go back home to recharge his mana bar. He's taken a little bit of damage from that ace in the hole, but I don't think he's too worried about being taken out or anything like that. That flash cooldown is getting to the point where it might be coming back again, as Peter is just... he is not paying rent at the moment. He's not living there.
No, he's really just fully roaming, but this gives a lot of experience over to deokdam to catch up here with Peyz. And actually, I've been looking at it, he hasn't lost that much compared to Keria. Actually, still dead even.
Yeah,
Peter's slight lead is we are going to see this first dragon go over to T1, unfortunately for DNS. And Peter's roams have been unsuccessful in terms of leading.
I imagine he's getting a lot of chimes though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a positive. You do like to get out onto the map as Pyosik taking a bit of damage from Faker. The train comes out as Pyosik is going to flash out of the way. Still gets slowed, and the Q's charged up. Oh, dearie me. This guy is definitely dead, and it's Faker that locks down that kill. First blood over to the Orianna. Disaster here for the DN Supers as Faker getting a lead. That's a problem.
And they almost looked like they wanted to give it to Peyz because he was true-shotting from so far away. The timing didn't work out. Still, either Faker or Peyz getting that kill is massive. And Pyosik just kind of got owned. Yeah, losing this entire top side of his jungle as well is a massive deal because he was power farming. And this is right after they lost the Dragon. You know, they gave Dragon and their cross map was to lose the jungler. Yeah. So it doesn't really bode well for how this early mid game is going to go for this composition. But big win there from Doran, who was able to get that charged Q over the wall, even though Pyosik was able to flash it. And that means also Nocturne is down a summoner.
As Keria taking a little bit of damage here, but it's just the plate that the DN Supers were looking for. They will be able to at least claim that. But a 700 gold lead here for T1 as that first blood allowed Faker to have that entirety of the lead to himself.
deokdam is, you know, he's generating some money down here. You can see he's really the only strong gold lead for DNS because he was able to pick up that plate, the second one of this turret here. Small lead for DuDu as well, who picked up one plate with the crystalline overgrowth that was picked up from him earlier. Yep. Is Pyosik here pushing super deep? Faker calls him out on it, and then he's just unfortunately unable to get away. You know, like Faker sitting on ult here. Pyosik is like, this is rough. Ult comes through here from Doran, and Pyosik can either get ulted by Faker there by going down or flash the wall and try to avoid Doran, but you know, Doran gets the Q over the wall. Faker's still there. He does not even have to use his ultimate in order to take him down. As DuDu now with some needlework, Doran just looking to try and get out of here. Doesn't have the ulti up and available, and does have to flash. Is now Pyosik in trouble. The smite is eaten by a spell shield, but he's still very, very dead as Faker once again going to take down Pyosik, and DuDu just running away from the entirety of the situation. 0-2 for Pyosik. We were talking about it before. Expectations. Yeah. So far, not necessarily working out as DuDu going aggressive, gets the flash over the top as Doran looks to move towards Oner, but he goes down. They now look to try and trade it. They will be able to do that, but a 1-for-1 is not what they were looking for. Great read by DuDu. He's like, I'm doomed no matter what. I might as well try to go for this outplay and trade a kill back. And he is successful there. Does have to expend his flash, but well worth it in that situation. Still, it's not great here for DNS right now in this early game as we start to approach the mid game, but at least he gets something back and maintains that gold lead. Yep. I think a little bit worried for what the DN Supers are going to be able to do off the back of this first item spike out for Faker. This is so, you know, for Pyosik here, he wants to help DuDu get a kill, but there's no mid prio. Faker is all the way up in his river, and so he's like trying to set something up top lane and then just finds himself dead. And DuDu is able to turn this around with a flash over this charged Q. He didn't even ult, like to just try and get towards his top laner or something like that. Could have just ulted towards Doran perhaps, but didn't pull the trigger. Wonder whether he was afraid of, you know, being, I don't know. I feel like he have shockwave, so like he could have been away. Yeah, I don't know. But I kind of agree with you. Maybe. I think he was in range, you know, even with his level 1 ultimate. It is level 1, so maybe it was just a little bit too short. That might have been the way. Still, in my head, Nocturne's ultimate is always way further than it is actually. Yeah, no, exactly. All right, once again, pressing the R button, here is DuDu. Doesn't quite have his first item complete, but he's already having a great time here. Level 11, and is able to make use of that level 2 ultimate. Pyosik moving over towards Oner here as control ward vision for T1. And it was Pyosik with a decent CS lead, getting more camps as Paranoia finally comes out. Pop Blossom is going to put him up into the sky though as he's kicked back, and Oner does manage to follow. deokdam now here as the Tempered Fate comes on down, but it's just not going to really do enough as deokdam is in a whole lot of trouble. As T1 are circling like sharks right now. The wave not quite here just yet, as deokdam looks to just try and chase Oner out of here. Peacemaker comes on through and he knows that he's dead. And he's finished off by a sonic wave of all things. Yeah, well, at least Is it a good thing that the Lee Sin got the kill and not the Ezreal? I don't know, actually. In this case, probably not, because it is Oner, and here already has a pickaxe in his inventory.
Yeah, it's just pick your poison, really. It's just not good on either side.
What are you going to do here? I mean, this situation is Oner has full control, and we found out here that Pyosik's R button isn't broken, but he's just instantly kicked back. He used his spell shield, trying to block the Pot Blossom, got hit by it anyways. And so just really not much he can do in this situation, has to just leave. deokdam tries to barrier the Q, avoids it anyways, and then chases Oner down because he knows he's dead no matter what. Keeps the wave away, but just dies to the Sonic wave.
Yeah, he was busy netting towards Oner as well as he dies to that one, and the minions, of course. But the DN Supers now staring down the barrel of a 5-1 lead as far as kills for T1. 2.8k as far as a gold lead. And with Oner on his Lee Sin, I mean, there are Lee Sins and then there's Oner's Lee Sin, right? He's very, very good at carrying these advantages towards the later stages of the game. It is a Chemtech Soul. Orcs is at work today, but, you know, might have been, I don't know, getting lunch or something like that. Maybe not paying
attention. Just perhaps was really, you know, maybe he was at that moment in time, like trying to go back and look at the Nocturne ultimate range we were talking about to confirm, like whether he was actually in range to ult the top lane, you know, just doing some research. It is what it is, like he would say. That's what he would say, right? You know?
Yeah, he's an is what it is kind of guy.
So deokdam wanted to try to help collapse here to maybe try to fight for Prio over this Herald, but it is just not going to happen. I think DNS are in this really unfortunate spot where at least it's Chemtech Soul, but they're down 2 dragons, they're down 3,000 gold, and the scaling argument just really doesn't feel like it's going to hold water in this game anymore.
Well, Pyosik just looking for a bit of an angle here, but it's more of a protection rather than an actual aggressive move. DuDu at least knows that he doesn't have any attention here towards the bottom side, but Doran has been holding his own just fine in this lane. And the gold lead's really starting to erupt for T1 around the map. And this is just, it's feeling like another day in the office.
Yeah,
T1.
This game just doesn't have any tempo vibes for DNS, right?
Nope.
Like you just don't feel like there's any chance, there's any magic that's going to happen tonight, sadly. As maybe it happens here.
Yep, there's the paranoia to come on through. Pyosik already down to half health, though, as we can see. That is a decent Cosmic Binding, as the Tempered Fate is weird, to say the least. Now the ulti comes through from Doran. There's some miss down, so the Gwen is indeed immune. And DuDu will be okay, but for a bit of an angle here. Does find some needlework now as Doran could be in trouble. Snip comes on through, and does he have another charge? The answer is he doesn't need one. He's going to flash forward, picks up the solo bolo, and I don't know whether it's going to be enough to actually turn this game around, but it's a good look for DuDu.
I mean, if they're occupied on this Herald, maybe he can get a turret here, possibly first turret of the game. I think you probably just risk it. He has TP. He knows where the Ezreal is in mid, and they have eyes on Faker, so he gets the turret off of this kill, so that's a big swing of gold, and he's the only one who has a gold lead in this game anymore.
And he's the most important one to have one.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about the 4-1 win condition. Well, he does definitely need to be strong as Shockwave comes down towards Clozer, taking a lot of damage now. Good avoidance as the ulti removes Oner from the equation, but Faker is still so incredibly low and just walks on out. Okay, never you mind. Used the last of his mana to speed himself up, and DuDu now just going to transition here towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, they'll just trade solo laners here. Clozer will go to the bottom lane since he has TP. I thought for sure Clozer was just going to greed for the flash to try to catch Faker there in the bush, knowing Faker didn't have flash, but he does not commit.
It was actually a really cute play.
So he goes in with the charged Q because he knows he can get his Q off first before Doran will reactivate. Gets the ult off here. Doesn't have his ult anymore, but has his Q. Just enough mana to use it, and then runs away.
Yep, beautifully done. And that is a massive swing. I mean, T1 were moving towards a 4,000 gold lead. It is now being cut in half by the DN Supers, and it's a 1.2 thousand gold advantage for the Gwen.
Yeah, and it's a Gwen that is going to be a big threat moving into sides, right? They have 3 grubs, so that's part of why he was able to take that turret out so quickly post the kill onto Doran in the first place. And then when he traded spots here with Clozer, who went to the bottom lane, actually didn't use his teleport, so he still has that. He went straight for that crystalline overgrowth, and now he's putting work into this top turret. So he might actually have 2 turrets to his name here before you know it. And Clozer's going to play very respectfully here and just let this turret go in exchange.
Yep.
And say, look, I mean, There's no way I'm going to defend this.
Yeah. And they also, I think, knew that Keria was in the area. Oner was stealing the camps on the bottom side.
They have vision everywhere else, so pretty good chance, right?
Yeah.
Like they have vision on the top river. They had Pryo in mid. They had that control ward even under the mid lane in that river brush. So it's like, okay, where is he? Probably coming for me right now.
Yeah, this siege working out, though, for deokdam as he grabs a couple of plates.
Yeah, great macro here, honestly, from DNS with this comp that makes it fairly easy to do so. You got a Caitlyn, you got a Gwen, you got an Azir, but they're playing it really well. They're not making mistakes.
Well, now T1 looking to try and lock down Soul Point. This dragon is up and available. Oner in the area. Does have the Herald as well. If there is actually going to be a fight for this, they can use that to do some tricky things, as Peter in a little bit of an awkward spot, but is able to move his way out. True Shot Barrage going to soften him up once again.
My issue with DNS playing for this is they don't have Clozer in the side lane with TP. He's actually just straight up here, so there's no side lane pressure while they try to slow this down. See if they can secure the smite. I mean, that would make it worth it.
Yeah, let's see whether Oner comes over and looks for this. He is certainly going to do so, as Pyosik can use the ulti to reposition, but the pop blossom onto 3. Pyosik gets into the backline, but Keria has already created so much of a problem. He does go down as they now look for the angle. A double kill for Clozer just before he goes down, as Peter just barely staying alive. Peyz in a lot of trouble, but deokdam as well contending with Doran as DuDu looking to cut him up. It's a double kill for the Lee Sin, and they manage to take the Drake, and Oner is able to take down
he can
the
stop the
Caitlyn
retreat
as well. It's, oh my goodness. Does smite down Shelly as Pyosik looks to try and get out of there, but there's a resonating strike. It's a Quadra, and Oner's looking for a potential penta angle. He does find the Q onto DuDu, and he is of course going to follow it, but I don't think they're going to be able to take down the Gwen right now.
When I said if we had POG, Oner would get it if T1 win this game. I didn't quite mean it was going to work out exactly like this, but that Sonic Wave landing on the deokdam changed the whole equation of the latter part of that fight, because if deokdam is actually able to survive there, I think T1 just have to tuck tail and run. As this engage here from Keria is great, but the follow-up isn't, right? Like, they put all the damage onto Peter, who survives, by the way, and gets over the wall. Pyosik's on this flank angle while DuDu is doing massive damage, and Faker is out of the fight. And from this moment on, yes, Peter is super low. Doran is going to be able to catch him here, but deokdam is the main character, right? Like, he and DuDu are the ones who are going to be able to cut down the Sion. So the fact that Oner finds this angle here and hits deokdam is the real game changer. And then, because he has Herald here, he can stop Pyosik's retreat. Pyosik smites down the Herald, and yet still gets caught here. There's just too much for Oner to use for mobility.
I swear, Peyz arcane shifted and almost went straight into a trap. If that actually had have happened, if he wasn't that pixel further away, that whole fight could have been different, as Shockwave connects onto Clozer, but he is focused on taking down this turret. They should be able to do so. That gold lead moving back towards 3K as Tempered Fate comes in and catches Pyosik, but not Keria, as the fear is still going to connect. Needlework comes on down. That's Ace in the hole to lock up the kill for deokdam. But now Oner is making his way in, finds a resonating strike. DuDu, he's able to immune that ultimate coming out from the Ezreal, but Pyosik, not a lot of options. The train is going to pass the station here, as DuDu is deceptively tanky with his Riftmaker, but still, Oner is such a beast. Doran likely to fall down, however, survives somehow, as DuDu goes into the mist and is able to keep himself up. Clozer has a fair bit of damage, but now without the Gwen, this could be problematic. Q connects, the Emperor's Divide doesn't do enough, and it's Peyz that locks down the kill on the Azir.
Some of these fights have just felt too close for comfort for T1, and yet they've still pulled it off thanks to Oner's incredible Lee Sin. But man, I look at how DNS have played this mid game. They had a great macro read with the top and outer and top and the outer and bottom lane right here, finally getting the last hit points of it as they look for this play. But they're playing through this Nocturne and the side lane pressure incredibly well, and they're turning it into team fight situations where it looks like, okay, maybe they can turn this into something big. But Faker still has this turret to operate through, and then Oner shows up, right? And that's the big game changer. DuDu has a really nice mist here to get out, but now you're fighting against this incredibly safe Ezreal. Doran's on the flank. It took too long for the objective to go down. Clozer does finally get the turret, but it's at such a hefty cost here. And now everybody's here, and Oner is just going to have his way with them. Going back in here for DuDu, a little bit greedy, a little bit of a...
I tell you what, it would have been really cool if Clozer had ult before this moment.
Yeah.
I was wondering why he wasn't using it. It was coming off cooldown as we were reaching this point.
I suppose maybe that's why DuDu went back in, because he was just trying to buy a few extra seconds. because he wasn't going to be able to do anything there alone. And it felt like on first watch that he kind of just left Clozer out to dry, but they were definitely trying to set something up there. But these fights like 3,500 gold down, 4,000 gold down that are as close as they are because DNS are playing the map well that, you know, it gives you hope that this roster definitely has something in it, but they are so far behind now.
Well, let's see whether they can find an angle here as the flash in from DuDu gets vision as well as they dive on top of the Ezreal. Peyz just doesn't get to play the game. Pop Blossom trying to use defensively, but Keria will be able to keep himself alive, and now Oner makes his way in. My God, the damage of this Lee Sin, and the Shockwave is able to pick up the kill as well. Down goes Peter, the Emperor's Divide is there, but Clozer, I don't think he's likely to survive this one, and Faker says absolutely not. Takes out that golden bird, and DNS are forced to run for the hills.
It's just another almost miracle win for DNS where you're like, oh, how did they out-rotate T1 again? And then ultimately, they didn't, right? No. Tempered Fate does not actually really get them a whole lot there in the fight. You know, it actually kind of buys T1 time for Oner to get over there and save the day again, as he is just putting out fires left and right and all of these scrappy skirmishes. As Peyz here just unaware that DuDu's on this wraparound angle, and DuDu does so much damage. The Nocturne ultimate can follow him so far away, and then Keria is also isolated. From this moment, you're like, wow, T1 might lose this game, right? And then Oner's like, wolf.
You
goes
silly
in,
Billy.
takes out Pyosik. This Tempered Fate doesn't really do them a big favor as...
Okay, DuDu teleporting in, does get into the mist in time as Doran is just getting cut apart. They will be able to take out the Sion. The question is, do T1 have anything else? True Shot Barrage is decent amount of damage as Doran is still trying to get work done. DuDu in a lot of trouble, and Peyz will be able to take him out. There's the kickback onto Pyosik. The follow-up not quite there though, as he does flash his way out. But the biggest threat is down on the side of the DN Supers.
Yeah, I mean, they have Emperor's Divide here for Clozer. It's so difficult to actually get in the setup range to use it. Paranoia also available here for Pyosik, but they don't have vision. So they have to kind of slowly leapfrog their way towards this dragon, but I think it's just going to be too late. Oh, Clozer takes a huge chunk.
Oh, Pyosik. They don't have another Scry as well.
Yeah.
So,
well,
what a bit of a shame.
It's just, how many times in a row is it now? Like 4, where you watch the Supers and you go, this is a great play. Actually, there's kind of a bit of an angle here as Doran, unfortunately, does not catch DuDu with his charge Q, so doesn't have his Q. He eats a ton of damage. They're kiting back into the choke point here. And then Peyz is able to weave in so much damage. His ultimate comes through. And Oner also, he hasn't shown up just yet, right? Look at this shockwave. DuDu gets finished off by Peyz here with a really sick shift there up to make sure he can land that angle. And then the DNS Supers the DN Supers don't have any angle after that.
And if that was deokdam that was tagged, like, Pyosik and deokdam was sharing pixels. And that Sonic Wave connected. He flashes out of the way, doesn't get knocked up by the kick. That could have been so much worse. And it already went terribly for the DN Supers. As now T1 move over to take down this inner turret, and they should be able to do so pretty comfortably. Gold lead moving towards 7K. They have the Chemtech Soul. As Magical Journey brings DuDu in. They're looking for Peyz once again. As he does get himself out, there's the Tempered Fate. Pop Blossom is going to connect. As DuDu moving all the way up. And now Clozer looks for the Emperor's Divide. They find it, and they grab the kill onto Faker. Keria goes down as well, but it's Oner that is a true carry here. Kickback once again, but the Q doesn't land. It's Peter looks to get on top of Peyz, and DuDu is going to assassinate him. Now it's Oner and Doran against the world, and the DN Supers, once again, they find a team fight, and this one, it looks even better.
Yeah, this time they actually kind of win it. They actually, in fact, do win it. You know, Oner was still alive, so I kind of had to, I was like, walk a tightrope on my words on this one, because when he's alive, he has turned quite a few of those, but there's just no damage anymore after Faker and Peyz are dead. So watch this again. Peyz has been pretty greedy with his positioning. He's given DNS so many ins here. The Tempered Fate allows them to try to make an outplay here. Keria is buying space, and now Peyz is safe, right? But Clozer gets over the wall, gets Faker, as Doran is dying in live, or nearly dying.
Yeah, someone was dying as they look for the angle, the flank opportunity, but the kickback comes through to disengage. Peter is tagged by the Sonic Wave. Resonating Strike comes on through as now DuDu is fighting against Oner, and Oner likes those odds. Able to take the double kill as he takes matters into his own hands. A triple for the Lee Sin. This guy is just a little bit too fed. 11-0-6. You were talking about the POG angle. I think this is guaranteed POM, and he can feed the entirety of game two.
There is one player on Summoner's Rift who has no deaths, who has 17 out of 20 KP. who is on 3.5 items, and it is the jungler.
Yeah, I actually think maybe we could petition DNS, like, we don't need to play game 2. Let's just give POM to Oner and move on. But instead, we want as much League of Legends as possible. But what an incredible performance from this guy. Is Doran going to be able to soften up these Nexus turrets straight into the queue? Beautiful shockwave from Faker as the Pop Blossom going to pick them up, put them down. And the DN Supers will be laid to rest as T1 off the back of their jungler are going to dominate in this later stage of the game. One team fight looked like hope. But Oner said, no, not today, my friends. His Lee Sin just as incredible as always.
I was impressed by 6 players in this game. They were the DN Supers and Oner. This was the true, like, actual epitome of a 1v9 performance from Oner.